Mykonos is an island known for its stunning whitewashed buildings and iconic domes, but it's also an amazing spot to sample some delicious Greek cuisine. In this food tour, we're sharing our favorite eats in Mykonos, including all the prices from both sit-down and budget options. So sit back, hit that like button, and we'll share the top foods you need to try when you visit Mykonos. Our first stop on the food tour is taking us to the heart of Mykonos town to try probably the most classic Greek food there is. Here, we're visiting a highly rated restaurant, famous for their fast service and affordable prices. We'll also be sharing a vegetarian version of this classic later in this video, so stay tuned.
So one of the foods you need to try when you come to Greece is the gyro. We think we're going to be having a lot of these because it seems to be the cheapest thing to get on the island. These were a pretty reasonable price. They were $4.80 a person, and they seem like they're pretty generous portions. I think gyro is probably one of the most mispronounced foods. There's a chance I'm mispronouncing it, but I've heard many people call it gyro, which I don't think is correct. We're told it comes from the Greek word meaning to turn, which makes a lot of sense because this is made from rotisserie meats that are shaven off, placed in a pita that's slathered in tzatziki sauce. And it seems like here they stuff them with tomatoes and what looks to be French fries. So it looks like a really delicious hand food. I'm gonna dive in for my first bite here. This is gonna be our first gyro here in Mykonos. And I'm pretty darn hungry, so I'm excited to try this. That is really good. I love gyros, so it's no surprise that this is hitting the spot. It's got a nice char taste to it, so you can really tell the meat came from a rotisserie. It looked like a really fresh rotisserie in there, and the tzatziki sauce on there is so fresh and light. For under $5, this is a great meal to pick up while you're in Mykonos. Our next step on the food tour is winding us through Mykonos' charming white streets in search of some authentic Greek pastries. We cover in our top things to do a Mykonos video some of the most iconic spots worth exploring, so be sure to check that video out as well. Anyways, after wandering the city and marveling at its famous row of windmills, we decided to stop inside one of the island's most famous and most delicious bakeries to try some essential Greek eats.
So we just made our way into the cutest little bakery in Mykonos, and we ordered a feta cheese pie and baklava. They actually served it to us on these cute little ornate plates and gave us some waters with our dish, and look how cute this little sitting area is. This feta cheese pie definitely looks really flaky, almost croissant-like. And I'm really interested to try it with the feta in there. Normally don't really think of feta and baked goods going together, so get a little piece here. Wow, that bread is light and flaky, but still kind of heavy and buttery at the same time. And the feta just kind of spills into your mouth. It's actually pretty warm too, which I wasn't expecting since it was just sitting out. Wow. You know, I actually think whenever we ordered it, he might have warmed it up for us because it is the perfect temperature. This also typically comes with spinach and feta inside of it, but I think we missed the bill on that one. It looked like they were out, but this is still absolutely incredible. I love all of these flaky bites, and it's pretty big for €4 too. So good.
So as Courtney mentioned, we've descended down into this bakery, and one of the things I just love about traveling is when you stumble upon somewhere that just exceeds your expectations. We saw this place had really good reviews online, and from the outside streets, it looks pretty unassuming. When you walk in the door, you walk down the steps, and it opens up into this pretty large-sized cave filled with pastries and sweets, and it just smells so nice. And actually behind the bakery, there's another room with just a sitting area, which is where we are. And actually behind me, you can see these are the ovens where they make some of these pastries. The doors open up to the beautiful Mykonos street, so our view behind us is just the perfect whitewashed walls. You have this nice breeze coming through here, so it's actually a very, very nice spot to eat some food. What we have here is baklava, and this is a very classic Greek dish. Having the bigger sweet tooth of the two of us, I decided I'm taking the first bite of this one. Here we go. That is sweet. There's a really nice syrup to it, which kind of coats the tongue as you eat it. And there's almost like little shaved nuts in there, which add a little bit of hardiness to it, which I think is very classic for baklava. It's one of the core ingredients that makes it, well, baklava. And the syrup here is really sweet. It almost has like a honeyness to it. I'm almost tasting a tiny little bit of acidity, which might be a little bit of lemon or vinegar. I'm not quite sure, but it really pairs so nicely with the sweetness of this. And I'm almost laughing to myself as I'm eating this because I don't think I've ever really had baklava before. My only experience with baklava before is Stanley Hudson talking about it on The Office.
Now all I like is baklava.
I clearly see why now, because it's pretty darn good. The pastry on top is really nice. It's made of phyllo dough, which is very traditional in Greek cuisine, and adds a lightness to the heaviness of the nuts. If you're a baklava fan, this is a great one to pick up when you're in Mykonos. And the ultimate test of a good pastry, listen to this crunch. It's so flaky.
The sitting area is just the cutest too. We're actually sitting around a lot of ovens, fridges, and even scales seemingly to weigh the ingredients. Plus the doors open here so we get a fresh breeze and a peek into the Mykonos streets. This bakery is also very close to the Fabrika bus station, which is the main bus station in the center of Mykonos. We've heard it's very Greek to go to the bakery, pick up some baked goods, and take them to the beach for the day. So I think this is a pretty good spot for that. You can come down here, pick up your pastries, hop on over to the bus station, and get to the beach pretty quickly with some delicious goods. Yeah, so I'm not the hugest fan of baklava overall. I've never really liked it that much because usually it's too sweet for me, but I definitely think that's a taste preference. I'm the person who likes the cake way more than the sugary icing. So I'm loving the flaky phyllo dough on top. The sugary honey nut situation on the bottom is probably the sweetest thing I've ever tasted. I really can't think of anything I've had that's more sugary than that. It's still really good. It just depends on your sweets preference. Michael is absolutely loving it because he has such a big sweet tooth, but I'm definitely sticking to the feta roll more.
And adding to the cute theme of this place, when they sell out of certain pastries, they actually cover the names up with little doilies. As Courtney knows, I'm a sucker for doilies, so that is just such a classic thing for a cute family-owned restaurant.
Next up, we're walking uphill for a few minutes to get a great view of the city from above. After a brief stop at Bonnie's Windmill and being swarmed by a couple of cute Mykonos cats, we're walking just a few minutes further to reach a restaurant slightly off the beaten path. Being just outside the main city, we're sitting down to sample some traditional Greek food at a fraction of the price of Mykonos' main town just below.
So our first dish just came out and they look amazing. What I have here is a very classic Greek dish. It's feta cheese wrapped in phyllo, and phyllo is the same pastry dough that's actually used to make baklava and some other Greek pastries. And believe it or not, phyllo's origins date back to ancient Greece. So to think that Hercules could have been eating this, or some other ancient Greeks, that's pretty exciting. And it almost looks like the phyllo is fried. It has a thick crust to it. So I'm excited to dive into this cheese bite here. Here we go. That is so interesting. I actually don't know if I've had a flavor like that before. It's actually coated in honey, so it has a sweetness on the first bite, but as you chew through, you hit the bitterness of the feta cheese, which has a nice sharp flavor to it. And I think there's sesame seeds on top that adds a little bit of crunch in addition to the phyllo. It's got the right amount of sweetness and savoriness, and the feta cheese on the inside is warm, which adds a nice heartiness to it. If you're looking for a good Greek food, I really like this.
So next up we have the Greek salad. Whenever we ordered this, as well as the feta with phyllo, our waiter told us that we're going full Greek, which is very true. This is something our taxi driver in Athens actually recommended that we have. So the difference between a Greek salad and a traditional salad, which you might find in the States, is that a Greek salad doesn't have any lettuce in it, which I actually think is kind of nice. I think the lettuce is probably the worst part of a salad anyway. So it looks like what we have here is tomato, I think cucumber, red onions, olives, huge slabs of feta in there, which I wasn't expecting. Green peppers, some sort of seasoning, and I bet there's some olive oil drizzled on here as well. And another thing that's kind of surprising about this is it doesn't look like it's finely diced at all. They pretty much serve just huge chunks of each of the components. So try to get a couple bites of each one here. Got an olive pit. That is so incredibly fresh. I don't know if I've ever had a salad that's that fresh. Feels like all of the ingredients were picked straight from the farm and driven here. There isn't too much seasoning to it. It's kind of like I thought. I'm pretty sure there's a decent amount of olive oil in there. There might be some balsamic vinaigrette drizzled on as well. The crunch is just unmatched because of how fresh it is. I'm gonna go into some feta here now. It's actually pretty melty feta, which I'm not used to. It kind of just melted right on my tongue, but it still has that really sharp flavor that you traditionally get with feta. This is incredibly refreshing. We haven't had many vegetables on our 2-month Europe excursion here, so good to load up on something a little bit more healthy.
So what we have here is another classic Greek dish. This is souvlaki, and we were told it was something we have to try when we're in Mykonos. Typically it's meat that's slow roasted and served on a skewer. We were kind of expecting it to be served on a plate on the actual skewer itself, but it came wrapped in a pita with french fries, and I'm not complaining about that because I love the pitas here. So I can't wait to to dive into this. There were a couple different options with souvlaki when we were ordering. There was pork or chicken, and I think maybe even gyro meat you could have gotten souvlaki style. So we went with the pork here because we haven't had anything like that before. And it looks like there's pretty chunky portions of pork on here. So it looks like they definitely hooked us up. And for the price, this definitely feels like a lot of food for the money. So I'm so excited to dive into this. Here goes. The pork is so juicy and tender, and there's not really much seasoning to it. It's really like the whole flavor of the pork is just the pork. I was kind of expecting there to be a rub or some other kind of flavor on there, which is actually really nice. It tastes like one of the most juicy pork chops I've ever had, mixed with tzatziki and potatoes on there. And I don't know if it's just me, but I just love foods you can eat with your hands. So I'm actually kind of excited I can eat some fancy pork without needing a fork and knife here. So I'm really looking forward to chowing this down. We got ourselves a visitor. And no summer trip to Mykonos is complete without sampling a sweet treat after a hot day. For this, we're stepping into one of Europe's most picture-perfect gelato shops to try some tasty scoops.
Alright, so we stopped in for a treat at Snow Gelato. Pretty much all the ice cream shops we were seeing here in Mykonos were a little bit expensive, but this one actually seemed reasonable to us. So this was $4.50 for a small cup of gelato, and he really packed it in there, so we feel like we're getting a pretty good deal. We ended up getting a cookies and cream flavor, and this place overall just has a really good aesthetic, and it's right on the sea as well. So going in for a bite here. I got a heaping cookie dough bite. That was really, really good. We think this is vegan gelato. We'll double check that, but you can definitely tell it tastes a little different than maybe the gelato you're used to, but it's still really good. It almost feels a little bit lighter, probably because there isn't that heavy cream in there. I'm gonna go in for another bite here. Yeah, it almost tastes a bit more frozen yogurty than gelato, but it's still really good. They also have a lot of different unique flavors in there, so it would definitely be fun to try a couple different ones.
And one thing I'm loving about this place is I feel like sometimes when you're sitting inside, you don't really feel like where you are. And this place, I feel like I'm in Greece. You have the perfect white plaster walls, which just gives it such an awesome atmosphere. One of a kind ice cream spot. And there's a little seating area right outside, which is right on the water. It was a little full when we got here, so we had to sit inside, but I'm actually not even minding it so much because this view is just so unique. Yeah, it's expensive gelato, but I kind of get what you're paying for now. With that view, absolutely can command that price.
Next is probably the classic we ate most while on Mykonos. After picking up a to-go handful from our favorite souvlaki shop, we're wandering over to one of the island's most picture-perfect churches to share the ultimate budget and vegetarian meal on the island.
Another food we just picked up is a veggie pita. It says almost all the fixing of a gyro, but without the meat. It's one of the cheapest foods you can get on the island. Instead of having meat, it's got onions on there, tomatoes, I think green peppers maybe, but it's got the exact same delicious tzatziki sauce. Truth be told, we've already had this a couple times already because it's just such a good deal, so I know it tastes amazing. But I'm gonna go into my first bite of this one, which has just the most beautiful picturesque Mykonos backdrop to eat it at. So I'm excited to dive in. Delicious. If you're a Euro fan or a vegetarian, great spot for you. So that's it for our Mykonos food tour. Be sure to hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, and be sure to subscribe to see our other videos from Mykonos and all over the world. Coming up, we'll be releasing videos covering the nearby island of Paros, which is an amazing island to visit. Then, we're sharing several other helpful videos for the island of Santorini, where we head to the mainland to visit Athens. So be sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. Thanks, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.